Hi, welcome to our presentation. My name is Matt Collison. I am the Director of Innovation, Strategic Partnerships, and Instructional Technology at South Fayette Township School District.
Hi, and I'm Alexandria Fox, and I am an online instructional designer with the IU School of Education.
And my name is Carrie Hagan. I'm a clinical associate professor of law and director of experiential learning at the IU McKinney School of Law. And our presentation today is titled Using Recap for Formative Assessment and Feedback with Students. And so what we'd like to do here is introduce you generally to why we developed this concept, give you some examples of how it was implemented, and then provide you with some resources at the end so that you can use it for your own courses and your coursework should you choose to do so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt, who will get us started with that outline.
Thank you, Carrie. So many school districts in the region adopted Canvas in response to COVID-19. And now that we're back largely in face-to-face classrooms, many teachers wonder how they can use Canvas in an effective way in their classrooms. So in this presentation, we want to talk about how you can use Canvas in a way that supports student engagement, self-reflection, and supports formative assessment in your face-to-face classroom. So over the years, we've developed this recap framework. We've used it in undergraduate and graduate level courses, and we're expanding the use into K-12, and we're excited to share this framework with you today. It's a very simple framework using two elements of Canvas, the Canvas discussion tool, and then the ability to embed video. So you can record a video right in Canvas and use that, or you can use an external tool such as Zoom or Google Meet, and then upload the video into Canvas. But that video and the Canvas discussion tool are all that you'll need to use for this recap framework. And with that, I will pass it to Alexandria, who will talk a little bit about the use of recap.
Thank you, Matt. So whether you have built your course fully online in Canvas or it's a face-to-face course, the recap framework is it's an approach to provide just-in-time feedback to students and allow them for self-reflection and formative assessment. And what it is it provides a structured reflection process in either on a weekly basis or following an assignment. It can also be used with a project in the checkpoints within a project. So the weekly recap framework really just has two parts to it. And the main component of it, what recap stands for, is reflect on your week or reflect on your work, explain what you have learned, compare your work, and the comparison to the work would be from the instructor recorded video, act on feedback and plan for success. And so when it's used for the weekly recap, the instructor would just record a short video under 5 minutes and then provide some reflective responses based on structured prompts for the students. And then for the assignment recap framework, it's really 4 parts. The first component, you would need to identify a reflection checkpoint in a lesson or learning activity. Then create your video with the feedback, modeling expert thinking. Have the students, again, watch that short video, and then they would craft their reflective responses based on the prompts. And recap was created based loosely on KWL, and it can be used across all content areas, and it allows the students to activate prior knowledge, set learning goals, and summarize their learning. And now Carrie is going to show some examples of what that has looked like in her classes.
So again, just remembering what Matt said initially, this has been used both in the undergrad and graduate context. And so the audiences that this has been used for have been as small as 8 and as large as 100. Now, I said 100, so that's a ton of people. However, the best part about recap is once you build it, it's so simple to implement, and it's also incredibly simple just to scroll through the student feedback and reflective pieces. And so when I taught property for first-year students, I did have 100 students, but I did have them complete weekly recaps because I wanted them to think about the material that we had just covered and plan for their week ahead. And it was very easy for me to go using SpeedGrader on Canvas through all of those responses just to get a sense of where everybody was. And so maybe it took me 15 to 20 minutes, but in that 15 to 20 minutes, I had a really great concrete understanding of what common struggles were, of what they felt successful at, of things that I hadn't made clear. And so once I had an understanding of where the students were, it really helped inform what I was going to then use for my instructor video for the following week. And the recap was so successful, honestly, even for that large student population, that many students stated that they used the same approach for their other classes, even though they weren't being asked to use weekly recaps. And so that was really powerful for us as designers of this concept with how comfortable students really were. Now, one of the things we were initially concerned about is that when we do the weekly recap, we actually have them complete the same prompts every week. And so Alexandria can show us an example of what the weekly recap looks like in an actual Canvas course. And we were concerned that students might find that a little repetitive. Well, in fact, the opposite was true. We asked them to do the same things every week, which really gave them a nice way to critically think about how they were progressing in the course, and they were comfortable with the prompts because they used them every single week. And so the prompts for the weekly recap, just as Alexandria mentioned, are really to get them just to reflect on the week before. What were they being asked to do? And then what did the work teach them, right? And how did they feel about the work that they had just completed? They had to explain what they learned, so which is also helpful from an instructor perspective because we hear whether or not they're actually getting what it is that we're trying to teach them. They then compare their work to any general feedback we've given as a group or to individual feedback that they may have gotten on individual assignments. But then they are asked to act on that feedback, right? They have to think about, this is one of the challenges we all face as instructors. We spend hours grading and giving feedback and no one ever reads anything. The best part with weekly recaps is they have to think about the feedback that we've given them, and they actually have to think about how they're going to act on that and utilize that going forward. And then the last part of recap, which is the plan for success, also really helps in getting them to think ahead. And so again, students were very favorable to that plan for success because they did have to sort of think about their time during the week. And if Alexandria, if you'll scroll down just a little bit, we can show just how we lay this out in the actual recap page. So we just give them the overall recap graphic and explain it. Initially, we give them the tasks that we're expecting them to do. And then below the video, we again give them the prompts. But in the video, again, I've reviewed the recap from the week before. I know what they're all struggling with. I know things that I need to clarify. I know what they feel good about. And so in the video, I'm able to very succinctly highlight all of those things and also introduce the material for the upcoming week. We then give them the prompts for the recap reflection. We give them specific criteria for success so they know how to do a good recap post. And then we also give a rubric, right? So that we know what a specific response looks like when it's quality or when it's not. So students have clear examples. So this is recap in the weekly format. But the best part about recap, not only is it not a huge grading hassle because it doesn't take a ton of time, but when you notice that students might be struggling with something and you just want them to have a little bit more practice, recap is an ideal vehicle for that. And so, for instance, in my law school courses, I have to teach students how to read court cases. Well, that is not an easy task. The vocabulary is entirely new. The subject matter is all very, very different, but they still are tasked with reading all of these court cases and taking notes in an organized system. So I introduce them generally on how to do that, but they still always struggle. They're constantly doubting themselves on being able to take notes in an organized way. So to combat that, I was able to build in a few recap assignments, just giving them an opportunity to practice. And the way to do that is just thinking of it as a very low stakes or no stakes assignment. So for this particular example, I just gave them a court case to read on the previous page. They've never seen it before. And then I asked them to take notes on it in the organized way that I'd instructed them to do. And then they have to recap and reflect on that. So first I get them thinking about that particular case and how that was. I then go over what my notes would look like on that case in the instructor expert model video. And then the last piece of this is, again, asking them to create, to have a recap reflection, but the prompts are different. And that's the best part about recap, is the weekly ones we recommend keeping the same, because students really do enjoy the consistency, and it's better for us as instructors as well. But for the assignments, this is where you can really inject what it is that you're trying to get the students to think about, and where you can have them reflect on the critical questions that you need the answers to. So for this particular assignment, again, I'm just asking them, how did they find the case to be? Was it difficult? Was it not? Could they understand it? Based on the feedback in the video, were their notes similar to mine? Based upon how they did in this particular assignment, what will they do moving forward? And as they read cases in the future, how are they going to be successful? And so again, grading this took no time at all. And it just gives another way that you can foster connection between instructors and students in a very simple, but very helpful and instructive way. So recap really does have those two specific uses. And the third use that we've used it for, we recommend it for, is just for specific projects. So for instance, in my law course, for undergraduates, I have them interview a legal practitioner. There are several steps for that project. They have to complete certain tasks. Well, for each one, you can add in a specific recap, just as you would do for an assignment, just checking in to see how they do with each one of those steps. And I just want to emphasize, as an instructor, this might seem overwhelming. It is really not any more work. And I will say that the reason that we also thought about developing this strategy was because I thought, when I taught online, wouldn't it be great for me to record these videos, giving my students all kinds of feedback, general thoughts, notes on assignments, so that they would watch them and then everyone would benefit. No one watched any of those videos. We actually have data where we tracked it, and the only ones watching the videos were us. And so by having them actually have these videos now, and then constructively having to reflect, it's so much more beneficial all the way around. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Matt so that he can just talk a little bit more about how you might be able to use this in your courses in one or more of the ways that we've shown you here.
Thanks, Carrie. So what we've done is put together a template in Canvas that you can download, and so that you can import it into any number of your classes and use it. As part of this template, we have constructed a planning guide for you. So when you think of this video, this 5-minute video that you have to create, you may wonder, what do I put in that? How does that work? How do I organize that? So in addition to what Carrie said, we have this planning guide, which will walk you step by step through thinking about a particular learning outcome, reviewing an assignment that students completed based on that, and then just helping you put together an outline for the video for the recap. So we have that planning guide in the template. And if we go back to the template, thank you, Alexandria. We have the graphic, we have the overview description for students, and then we have the task list. And for the task list, we also put together a student planning guide. So if you are teaching middle school, for example, or even high school, and you feel like your students could use a little bit more support or scaffolding around answering those specific prompts, we put together this planning guide for students just to help them make sure that they're directly addressing each of the prompts in the recap framework. So we have the planning guide for teachers, we have the planning guide for students, and we also have then the spot where you can put in your video, and we have the criteria for success. So we have the rubric here on the page. We also have a rubric embedded inside this Canvas discussion. And so when you import this into your Canvas site, the rubric comes along with it. And so you don't have to do anything other than import this into your course, add your video, and then you're ready to go, ready to provide quick feedback to students based on the responses. And so all this is available to you through a link. We're sharing this to you through a link that we'll put up here on the screen. It's bit.ly/recap-link. If you go there, you'll be presented with a short Google form. Once you complete that, you provide your email address, talk a little bit about the course that you're going to add recap into, and then submit that form. I will then email you the Canvas template, which you can import right into your course. And we decided to do this way. One reason is because Canvas Commons often has problems from our experience. And so we wanted to make this as seamless as possible for you. And then second, we wanted to be able to provide any support and follow up with you and see how your experience with recap was. So again, just complete that link and you'll be presented with a form, and then we will email the template that you can import right into Canvas. And so thank you so much for your time today. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation and walked away with something that you can implement in your classroom tomorrow. Please reach out if you have any questions, and have a nice day.